Before we get too far into the project, I want to talk a little bit about your yarn options and what kind of yarn requirements there are depending on the size shawl you want to make. So I have with me the two different size options that I've finished. Mine are both in fingering weight yarn, known to some of you as sock yarn, but you can really use anything, although for the sake of predictability, I recommend that you use the same weight so that you don't run out of yardage unexpectedly. In my project, I recommend that you use a superwash Polworth wool from Once Upon a Corgi called Isaac. It's a local Connecticut company that I found at the State Sheep Show, and they have a lot of floral tones with fun color names, so there are a lot of fade options in their yarn. At 74 inches, this is the larger size, and it makes a really cozy shawl. It's a bigger investment of time and materials, but I think it's worth the trouble. This required 2 100-gram skeins of light color and of dark color, but I didn't actually use up all the yarn. You can see that it drapes nicely, but it hasn't actually lost any of the springy texture of brioche. I also added a slight fade effect using 2 different light color yarns that were very similar, so you can see how close the colors are when I hold them next to each other. There's just enough of a difference to make the edge stand out, and I'm going to be talking about that a little bit in a few days. Now, the smaller size is closer to a shawlette. It's only 68 inches wide, and it uses 1 100-gram skein of each color. So I'd consider this a good scarf size, but not necessarily something you want to wear over your shoulders. It's really perfect if you want to learn a lot, but you don't want to spend much time or buy lots of yarn to finish the project. This sample used some stash yarn, and it didn't use the Isaac yarn, and if I show you both of them next to each other, you can see that it ended up knitting up differently. It's drapier, and therefore it's kind of lacier, and it gives you a more open result after blocking. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit more when we talk about gauge, but there are going to be some differences between your yarn types, and don't worry about that. What you should worry about is really whether you like the fabric that you're getting. So remember to add your project to Ravelry and check out the forum at the link in the description. You can also post on Instagram using the hashtag #BloomingbRiocheKAL. Soon we're going to be swatching together, so make sure you have something to knit with that you can use as your final yarn. I'll see you in a few days.